So welcome to my page for the DAA Competencies for Food Service Management. In this video, I will only be summarising how I have demonstrated competency in the performance criteria outlined for the Food Service Management Unit, as more details on this are provided below on this page. However, I will also be discussing how meeting these performance criteria has allowed me to develop my understanding of the role of a dietitian in the food service operation, and also how I can further develop my skills in the area of food service management. So firstly, competency in the following set of performance criteria outlined on this page was demonstrated through the completion of the menu assessment task or the analysis of an aged care menu assignment. And more specific details on how each of these performance criteria were met are outlined below on this page. Meeting this particular set of performance criteria has allowed me to develop my understanding of the role of a dietitian in the food service operation by making it especially apparent that it is important as a dietitian to have a close relationship with the food service staff to feel comfortable when making recommendations. It is also important that as a dietitian that you have adequate evidence to support the recommendations that you make, and that you have considered the potential implications on the food service system, including budget, food safety and the labour required to carry out the recommendations. It has also allowed me to understand that completing a qualitative and a quantitative analysis is an important role of a dietitian when assessing the nutritional adequacy of a food service menu itself, not just when assessing the adequacy of an individual's intake. It has also been made aware that the role of a dietitian when completing a qualitative analysis on a menu also involves applying a slightly different technique, such as looking at the colour palette, presentation and flavour repetition, compared to qualitatively analysing an individual's intake, which mainly involves looking at meal pattern and intake compared to the Australian Dietary Guidelines. Skills in this area can further be developed by becoming actively involved in the food service system, where I commenced my first job as a dietitian, as well as qualitatively and quantitatively analysing any menu in which I have access to in the near future, including any restaurant, hospital or residential facility menu, and practice making recommendations to improve the nutritional adequacy of the menu items on offer. I should also be keeping up to date with the standards in place that food service operations must adhere to, as well as any relevant literature in this area of dietetics. I could also practice formulating nutritious recipes as well as modifying recipes to improve the nutritional composition. Competency in the next set of performance criteria was demonstrated through the completion of the weekly food service activities, and details on how each of these specific performance criteria is also outlined below on this page. Meeting this particular set of performance criteria has further allowed me to develop my understanding of the role of a dietitian in the food service operation by allowing me to recognise that as a dietitian it is important that you consider the big picture when making recommendations, such as considering legislations and policies that may be in place, as well as how your recommendations can impact on the environment and sustainability. It is also important as a dietitian to support the food service personnel, as they do play a critical role in the health, well-being and nutritional status of many individuals. Skills in this area could be further developed with more investigation into the ways in which food service operations impact on our environment and sustainability, as well as practical recommendations that could be implemented into these food service operations to improve the impact they have on our environment. I should also be keeping up to date with policies and legislations where relevant, and also liaising with the food service personnel as frequently as possible, and also investigate their individual roles in the food service operation. Competency in the next set of performance criteria was demonstrated through the completion of the quality report, as well as the research project that took place at Casey Hospital. And again, more specific details on how each of these performance criteria were met are outlined on the page below. Meeting this particular set of performance criteria has also allowed me to further develop my understanding of the role of a dietitian in a food service operation by allowing me to recognise that when undertaking a research project, not only as a dietitian but any professional, it is essential to identify, consult, engage and inform any relevant stakeholders throughout the completion of the research task. It has also allowed me to recognise that it is important as a future dietitian to be able to critically evaluate and reflect upon the data collected, as well as clearly communicate recommendations based on the findings made. Further developing skills in this particular area could be achieved through engaging in more research projects in future. Competency in the final set of performance criteria was demonstrated through the completion of assessment tasks in other units other than B&D 4021 or food service management. And again, how each of these specific performance criteria were met are outlined below on this page. Meeting this final set of performance criteria has also allowed me to further develop my understanding of the role of a dietitian in the food service operation, by allowing me to recognise that a dietitian can play an important role in the application of meal plans in a variety of settings, including hospitals, residential facilities, as well as other organisations such as Meals on Wheels. And I've also learnt that a dietitian has the potential to contribute to the development of diet codes in a hospital setting. I've also been made aware that a dietitian in any setting should be able to identify food safety risks and develop a basic risk management plan, as well as be able to determine whether the nutrition information provided about a food, recipe or menu is accurate. Skills in this area can be further developed by continuing to practice devising meal plans, whilst ensuring that they are in line with the needs of the patient or the individual in which I'm devising it for. I should also keep up to date with any changes in the FSAN standards and also practice checking whether the foods that I regularly consume are in line with the standards as well. We hope that you enjoyed the video.